Good morning, everyone. So I'm glad that Superintendent Basler talked a little bit about Choice Ready, to give a little bit of background about it, because that's our next presentation, is to talk a little bit about Choice Ready, give you some background information about what it all entails, and then most importantly, the last couple of slides, like what's your role and what kind of questions should you be asking your administrators about this initiative. So what is Choice Ready? So Choice Ready is a component in our accountability system, which measures whether our high schools are producing students who are ready for success upon graduation. So all states under federal law, you've probably all heard of No Child Left Behind, that was the old one. The new one is ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. So all states have an accountability system. The nice thing is that we have a lot of autonomy in determining what we want as part of our accountability system and how we choose to measure our schools. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but Choice Ready is part of this accountability system for the high schools. And so it really, again, is not designed for, we think it's important that the students know how they're doing and if they're graduating Choice Ready, but really it's more of a measure for the high schools. And are our high schools doing their job in producing students that are ready to go out into the world and be successful? And so the metrics within the Choice Ready are intended to measure growth for our high schools as indicated by student readiness upon graduation. And growth is something that was really important to us when we were creating our accountability system, because we never used to have the opportunity to measure growth under No Child Left Behind. And that was a huge frustration for us. Only you may have, if you've been around in education for a while, you may have heard the term race to the top states. And so some states who applied for race to the top were given extra money to do some things differently, and only those states got to include growth in their accountability system. So now, under ESSA, which again replaced No Child Left Behind, all states were able to include a growth model within their accountability system. And that's really important because we know that, yes, it's important to measure how our schools and how our students are doing in real time, but we're looking for growth. We're looking to always be looking to improve. And so finally, we are able to have a growth system. And so this is what our accountability system in a nutshell looks like. And I believe that Alexis is going to send you all of the PowerPoint presentations following today's training. So if it's a little tiny, you can't read it, I believe you'll be given access to all of these slides. But we have separate measures at the elementary versus the high school, because we know that education obviously looks different for elementary students versus high school. So at the elementary, we have our North Dakota State Assessment, which all students grades 3 through 8 take. And so they're measured on that. And then we have growth on the North Dakota State Assessment. And we can look at growth because we test at every grade level, 3 through 8. So we can see if the students are able to show growth. Then we also have one kind of non-academic indicator, and that's a student engagement survey. And Superintendent Basler talked as well about how important it is to measure whether students are engaged, because if they're not engaged, then they're not going to show that optimal growth. And so we work with a company called Cognia, and each year the students take a student engagement survey, which measures, are they engaged, are they disengaged, or are they compliant? And so, of course, we want our students to be engaged. Then that little green piece of the pie is to measure growth for our English language students, English language learners. Not all schools were able to use that because we have to be careful of the FERPA law. So only schools that have 10 or more students, we only look at growth there for those students. If they don't have 10 students, then we don't measure that, and the points are just equally distributed amongst the other pieces of the pie. So that's at the elementary. At the high school, we have, again, the state assessment, but they get a choice. They can either measure growth on the North Dakota State Assessment, or in lieu of that, they can look at the ACT. And so we have quite a few schools who have elected to use ACT in lieu of the state assessment. And again, that's their choice. And then we have this choice ready metric, which, this presentation is going to talk about that. And that's a pretty big piece of the pie there, 21%. And so it measures whether students are ready post-graduation. We also look at our graduation rate. We look at GED completion. So students drop out, and that's usually like schools take a hit for that if they have dropouts. So this is designed to help them if they can reach out to those dropouts and help them go back and get their GED, then the schools get credit for that. And we're only one of 2 states that do that, so that's a big bonus for us. Then we have that same student engagement survey that the high school students take, and then once again the green piece, if they have 10 or more English language students, we measure that. Otherwise, those points get equally distributed. So that's how our schools in North Dakota are measured, and we have like a report card, an accountability report, that comes out every year in August. Well, August for the schools to look at and see if it's accurate. For the public, it comes out in September. So that will be something very critical for all of you to make sure and ask your administrators about how did we do on our school accountability report. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But at the growth model at the elementary school is the state assessment. Since we don't test every grade in high school, we couldn't use the state assessment. And so that's how we, about 7 years ago, created this Choice Ready initiative as our growth model. So again, the metrics, and Superintendent Basler mentioned this kind of in a nutshell. The metrics within the Choice Ready initiative measure whether students are ready in post-secondary, workforce ready, or military ready. So those are the 3 pathways that are part of this framework. And there's a nice visual that kind of goes over the Choice Ready framework. Again, when you see the PowerPoint, when you get a copy of that, you can look at it more closely. You can also print a copy of this Choice Ready framework on our website if you want to take a look at it. But again, the overarching theme is that, first of all, before the kids go into the 3 pathways, there are some essential skills which we believe all students need to possess if they're going to be successful in the world. So that's kind of for everybody. You have to kind of meet the essential skills section before you can even be choice ready. And so within the essential skills section, those are like the soft skills that you hear so much about that we want our students to possess. And so they don't have to meet them all, but there are 8. The kids have to meet at least 4 of the 8 in order to be essential skills ready and move on to being choice ready. And so those are things like attendance, are they participating in extracurricular or co-curricular activities, capstone project, things like that. And then there are 3 different pathways. Being post-secondary ready, which they have a couple of options there. We look at the ACT score, or we know that there are some kids that are going to go on and be successful in life, but they're not able to get that score that you need on the ACT that is designated by higher ed. So there's an or there, and if they can take something like, there's something called CREAM, which is, I highly recommend you talk to your administrator and see if your school district is participating in the CREAM program. And if the student does not get the score on the ACT, they can take a class their senior year. Superintendent Basler fought very hard for first year in office to get this approved by our North Dakota legislature, and we have funding for this under leveraging the senior year. And so they can take this CREAM course their senior year, and if they pass the reading and the math portion, then it deems them choice ready. And they also get a full English and a full math credit. So this CREAM program is an amazing program that all districts, everyone, even high flyers, schools that are struggling, it's a benefit for everybody. You just take what the principal would do is look at the end of the year and see how the students did on the ACT. All those students who didn't get the required score, get a pool of those students, send a letter home to those parents, see if they want their child to participate in CREAM, sign them up, and then again, help them be choice ready. They get English and math credit. They don't have to take those remedial courses in college. And so it's a win-win for everybody. And then the CREAM course in addition to maybe some AP or dual credit courses or things like that can deem them post-secondary ready. Then you go into the workforce ready, and we worked close with our CTE department under Wade 6 direction, and they take some CTE courses, maybe pass the word keys assessment. There's a whole menu of options there. They don't have to meet every single one of them, just some of them. They can be deemed workforce ready. And then of course we worked with the military to create the military pathway in looking at taking the ABSVAB test, being physically fit, having no expulsions or suspensions, and then they can be military ready. And so that's our choice ready framework in a nutshell with the overarching essential skills we want everyone to meet, and then falling into the different pathways. Yes?
Is that CREAM program, is that free class?
Yes, the legislature provides funding for CREAM, and so there's no cost to the student. That's funded by our North Dakota State Legislature. Superintendent Basler created that her first and second year in office. So, yes, free, no remedial courses in college, really helps those kids who didn't get the required ACT score. It's an amazing program. Now, of course, ideally, if it were a perfect world, we'd have all of our students who meet the essential skills and they meet all three pathways. They'd be post-secondary ready, workforce ready, military ready. Well, we obviously know it's not a perfect world, and so what we wrote into our plan was that everybody has to be essential skills ready, but then they have to meet 2 out of the 3 pathways. And so they have some choices there. They can be post-secondary ready and military ready, or military ready and workforce ready. So as long as they meet 2 out of the 3 and the essential skills, then they are deemed a choice ready graduate. So we talked a little bit about our accountability system and how every year we are required to create a school accountability report for every single public school. And so we are working on creating those right now. So we take a look at all the state assessment results and all the graduation rates and the choice ready results and all of those things in the pie. And it comes out with like a little report card, a nice school accountability report for every single public school. They're going to go out the end of August in a private portal for the schools to review. And then they go in and they verify that everything looks accurate. And then the middle of September, they are released publicly on our dashboard. And then all of the legislators can access it, parents, school board members, the public. And so again, that will be something that will be critically important for you to talk to your administrator about and see how your schools fared on these accountability reports. So again, that just talks about the timeline there, that we're working on creating them right now in July and August. And then the middle of August, we'll send a letter out to all of the principals and the superintendents saying, okay, the draft reports are now in the private portal in STARS, go review them. And then middle of September, then they have about 3 weeks there with a question and answer period. And so they can call in and say, something doesn't look right, this doesn't make sense to me. And we have a bunch of staff ready to answer their questions, and then it becomes public mid-September, and our Alexa will do a news release, and they will be put on our private portal.
So prior years have already loaded on there?
Yes, you can go on the Insights dashboard right here that we're talking about next, and you can see past reports, how your school has done. It's a great question. So you can see if you're making gains or going backwards. So yes, I encourage you not only to review the current one when it comes out the middle of September, but compare it to the past reports so you can see if there's some growth there. And so this was another new thing that was part of our ESSA plan that we created 7 years ago. And I'm so proud of this. If you've never seen it, I highly encourage you to check it out. You can go to insights.nd.gov, and this is our interactive dashboard. So we worked with a company to create this dashboard, and it's very beautiful visually. It has pie charts and graphs, and you can go down to the school level, so you can look at the district, you can look at the state results and see how we're doing as a state, or you can look how your district's doing, and then you can go down to the school level. And it has lots of demographic teacher results as far as how many teachers do you have, what's your attendance, and then it has a special section under academic where you can go find these school accountability reports and see how your schools are faring on these reports. And so I highly encourage you all to check that out. So each year, back to Choice Ready, each year the schools work all year long. So they start in September and they have a Choice Ready report kind of created for them within this portal. And so for all the students grades 9 through 12, so that it's not so burdensome at the end of the year, they're continuously working on this Choice Ready report for all kids grade 9 through 12. And so especially then at the end of the year, it's very important for them to go in and make sure all of the seniors have their Choice Ready report complete. And they have every year until June 30th to do that. Then after that, it's locked so that our people can go in and start creating the Choice Ready results. And so we're very pleased to announce 100% of all North Dakota Public High Schools completed and submitted their Choice Ready report. So that's a very positive thing. Now we're working on creating those reports.
Lori, so if you're a high school senior, then you fill out this Choice Ready, you complete your own questionnaire, and then if that's the case, is that like our counselors taking care of that? Is that the process within school?
Great question. So her question is, who's creating these Choice Ready reports? So no, the students don't fill out the reports. The school has to have a Choice Ready coordinator or liaison, and most of the time that's the counselor.
Okay.
Although we don't tell them who it has to be. So in some of our smaller schools, maybe it's the secretary or maybe it's the high school principal. Many of our larger districts, like Bismarck, Fargo, they hire. This is a big task when you have 12 buildings. So some of the larger districts, they hire a person that this is their job to be the Choice Ready coordinator. So it varies from district to district who completes the report, but it's not the students, it's an adult. But the adults need to, and we'll talk about this in a minute, there's this required meeting they have to have every year where, and again, usually it's the counselor, although it can be another adult, but they have to meet with every student every year. They have to document this meeting on the Choice Ready report. And the purpose of this meeting is to talk about their future. And a lot of times you've heard of those student interest surveys that they give to students. And what do you want to do with your life? So that if they're going into certain areas and there are prerequisites, they can make sure that those kids are on track to be able to go into that field. And that's also where they would talk about some of these things like, tell me what extracurriculars you were in, because it doesn't have to be associated with the school. Some of that information they can get from the office, but maybe they were in Taekwondo, that's not part of the school. Maybe they were part of 4-H or a church group. And so they need to collect this information from the students so they have the knowledge and the right information to go in and complete those Choice Ready reports. And it's crucial that every high school make sure and complete the report for all of these students because it's 21% of that pie. I told you 100% submitted it. If they did not, if there was a high school that didn't complete their Choice Ready report, they would probably more than likely be a school that's identified for improvement because that would, if they lost all of those points, that would be pretty devastating. So we do a lot of follow-up calls and emails as far as, I see you haven't submitted your Choice Ready report yet, there's only a week left, you have to do this. So we do lots of follow-up, but it's worth it to get the 100%. The nice thing about the Choice Ready results is it's pretty easy to review on the Insights dashboard. It's just calculated year-over-year growth. And so it's not some big complicated formula. We just take a look at, did you make improvement from the prior year? And also then, does it penalize them if they had a bad year? You know, some formulas kind of take into consideration. So if they had a really bad year and it stuck with them in the calculations for the next 4 years, we don't do that. It's just year-over-year growth. And so if they had a bad year, they can easily make it up the next year if they really, try hard and put some initiatives into place. So if you go to the Insights dashboard and you click on the Choice Ready, you will see a bar graph that looks like this that shows the growth that your high school made from the prior year. The benefits of Choice Ready, we kind of already talked about this. Obviously, if schools complete their Choice Ready report and they do well, it's going to help them tremendously on the school accountability report, that one-page report card. It will help them do better on that. So it's good for the school. It's great for students. Students are going to be able to graduate Choice Ready so that they know they are ready to go out into the world and be successful. When we built Choice Ready, we looked a lot at the research and what kind of skills does the research show students need to have in order to go into the world and be successful. And that's what we put in as we built it. A committee of about 50 individuals, from superintendents to parents to school board. I mean, all the stakeholders made up this committee that helped us create this plan. So it had a lot of broad input and a lot of research behind it. So if students are Choice Ready, they can go out knowing that they're ready to go out into the world and be successful. And then, of course, it helps parents too, because if they can be Choice Ready, and if they take that cream, even if they don't get the ACT score, then the parents don't have to pay for those remedial courses their first year in college, which could be very expensive, and then it gets the student off track from their peers. And research shows them that those are the students that tend to drop out. So it's a win-win for everybody. Another reason that has really elevated the importance of the Choice Ready framework is that this last legislative session, you probably all know we have a state scholarship where students that get a certain score on the ACT and meet some other criteria, they get $6,000 to go to a North Dakota college. And so this past legislative session, they aligned the Choice Ready framework with the state scholarship. And so for a couple of years, there's going to be some overlap where they can meet the old requirements or the new requirements. But then beginning with the class of 2025, only the new state scholarships will be used. And so that's even more reason to really be working to get those students Choice Ready. Now they don't match exactly, because keep in mind, our goal is to have almost all of our students graduate Choice Ready. Our official goal is to have our Choice Ready rate match our graduation rate. Because in North Dakota, we're fortunate, we have a very high graduation rate, like around 95%. And so ideally, we want 95% of our students to graduate Choice Ready. And so the state scholarship is probably not ever going to be designed to go to mostly all the students. So there are a few differences, and it is a little bit more stringent, the requirements for the state scholarship than the Choice Ready, but they are pretty closely aligned. So all students who get the scholarship will be Choice Ready, but not necessarily all students who are Choice Ready will get the scholarship. So a few differences there. So most importantly for all of you, these are the types of questions that you should be asking your superintendent and your principals. And so for the last year, 21-22, how many of our seniors were post-secondary ready, were workforce ready, and were military ready? If I was a school board member, those would be things that I'm interested in. For last year, how many seniors did we have, and how many of them graduated Choice Ready? What was our growth? What was our Choice Ready growth from 2021 to 21-22. And they will have this information. Many states across the nation did not give the state assessment in 2021 because of the pandemic. North Dakota did. For the most part, our students were in school. So even though we didn't officially have to, the U.S. Department of Ed gave some flexibility, we wanted to have that data, that growth data. So in North Dakota, we did give the state assessment and the choice rating report and all the other pieces of the pie in the spring of 2021. So your school should be able to tell you what the growth rate was from spring of 21 to the spring of 22. Who's our choice rating coordinator? Because all of them have to tell us somebody who is designated that we can reach out to. Like I said, most of the time it's the counselor. In a large district, it's a separate, maybe a separate person hired, maybe the secretary, but you all have to identify one. So that would be important for you to know, who is that person? Who's your liaison in your district? And will school board members be provided with a presentation on our accountability results and be able to see our choice-ready growth once the data is officially released in September of 2022. That would be a recommendation for the superintendent and the high school principal to come to, and maybe they won't have it yet for the September date, because it's usually the first or second Tuesday, but maybe the October board meeting, they can come and they can do an accountability and choice-ready presentation for all of you and go through the accountability results and the choice-ready results. So how can school board members get involved? So listed there are some ideas on how your school and district can increase the likelihood of being able to show growth. First one there, expand options available to students. So you notice again, the choice-ready chart, that there are lots of choices. Choices for students, choices for schools. And so the more options you give kids, the better they're going to fare. And so a perfect example of that is that cream. You know, there are going to be kids that are not going to get the required score on the ACT. In every single school in North Dakota, that is unfortunately the case. But there's an option, and not all schools by far use that option, unfortunately. And of course, we're not into mandating. So this is the school district decision. So you guys need to make sure that for those students who aren't getting that required ACT score, are we making the cream course available to them? That option is going to help them dramatically. Another one are the, yes?
Is that course an online course, or is it taught by faculty at the school, or how is it being taken?
So typically they have like a place in the school, a separate classroom with a teacher assigned, and the schools go through it it's kind of like a hybrid where they go through these modules, but then they have an adult, which could be a teacher, a para, somebody in the room who's there to guide them, answer questions, supervise. So generally speaking, it's the class they take in school in a separate cream classroom, and they go through these online modules on the computer, but there needs to be an adult there that is supervising the class. So again, another option would be the extracurricular, co-curricular. There are so many students that maybe don't are participating in a school-based co-curricular and extracurricular. So unless the school is kind of going above and beyond and has a method like a little survey or this one-to-one meeting or something to find out if they're in 4-H or a church group or something, they may not be able to check that box. So it's really important to have somebody who's, really up to date and taking the initiative to find out this information. Another one is to build elements into the school day. This way, you can just mass fill the choice ready report. So a perfect example, one of the essential skills is taking an online course. We know that in today's world, students need to have that experience. They're almost all going to have some experience post-graduation where they go to college or they're at work and they need to participate in an online course or online PD training. So we want all of our students to graduate with having that experience. So if a school builds that into the school day, where all of the kids as a sophomore, or a junior, or as a senior take an online course, then you can go through and just mass fill and check that box for all the students, and then that's less work that the counselor has to do, that's less work that you've already got one of the 4 checked. And so by, taking the extra effort and building that into the day, it provides more benefit to you. Allow activities outside of the school day. Again, there is no requirement or mandate for you to accept 4-H, or even my girls were in figure skating, and that's not part of the school. So unless I would somehow, let the counselor or the principal know, hey, my kids are in figure skating, that should count as one of the core extracurriculars. And so the schools need to have a mechanism to collect that, but it's not required. So if somebody's not taking the initiative to do that, that's a lot of kids who are not going to be able to check that box. So make sure the Choice Ready liaison has a mechanism to allow and count all of those activities outside of the school day. We strongly encourage that person who's completing those reports to do it all throughout the year. Because think of our large districts, all students grade 9 through 12 and having to complete this pretty in-depth Choice Ready report. It's a lot of work. And so you definitely, it's not one of those reports, oh, it's due in June 30th, I'll start working on it June 14th. That's not going to work. And so we remind them all year long, okay, be working on this Choice Ready report continuously for all high school students all year long. Provide cream, talked about that. That's a huge opportunity, so make sure your high school is offering cream to the students. Partner with businesses and industry. That's going to help your kids become workforce ready. You can build in some apprenticeship programs or some work-based experience. To have a job, that counts as one of the things in the workforce ready. And most of the time, the businesses in the community are more than willing and to work with you on these things. So that's going to make your Choice Ready framework stronger if you have that partnership. And then another opportunity that you can do, so we all know how impulsive kids are, and it would be very sad if a kid had a bad day, they had a suspension, now they can't be monitored, right? Because they had one bad day. You, as school board members, you have the ability to create some kind of restitution policy in your schools. So maybe if there was a kid, and of course it's going to depend on the severity. Obviously, if a child brings a gun to school, that's probably one that you may not want to count. But if it was a minor offense, this is a really good kid that has a good track record, they just had a bad day, create a restitution process where they can do some community service, some extra credit or something, that's your decision. And if they do that, they can wipe their slate clean. We don't have the authority to do that, but you do. And so talk to your administrators about some kind of restitution policy.
Lori, I have a question for you. I'm not sure where this falls in, but where does the North Dakota Center for Distance Ed fall into all the Choice Ready stuff? Are they their own entity? Like when you're talking about having everybody have an online class, is that a part of this, or are they separate? Does that?
Yep. The question is, how does the Center for Distance Ed, our online school, fit into this? And so, yes, absolutely, they're one of our strongest partners. And absolutely, if the kids take a class through CDE, that can count as the online course. And so, yes, we work very closely with them, and many, many schools utilize them. So, yes, if you have a student who takes an online course through CDE, they can check that box that they took an online course.
But now, are they changing their parameters? So now, like during COVID, kiddos could take classes there, but now they're changing their parameters again, right? Is that? So like you can't just, if you want to take an English class there, you just can't. There's some situation, is that right? Am I remembering? And I might be asking a crazy question, but they're not.
Center for Distance Ed is constantly changing. Their principal, their director, who's been there for many, many years, Matt Long, just left and went back into the school. So Wade's sick. in North Dakota. The Center for Distance Ed is actually under CTE. And so Wade Sick is the leader. He is in the process of hiring a new director for CED. And of course, they're always making changes, but I'm not sure what you may be referring to, but when Superintendent Basler comes back, we'll ask her about that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So again, I hope that gave you a little bit of a better understanding of what Choice Ready is, that it's part of our bigger accountability system, and some questions that you can go back and talk to your high school principal and your superintendent about. And please, if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to call me, to email me. I'd be happy to help you, answer your questions. We even come out, we do presentations on Choice Ready. So however we can help build up this initiative within the state, we are more than happy to do that, because this initiative is something that we worked very hard on and we're very proud of it. Anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Do students understand Choice Ready and do teachers understand Choice Ready?
That is a wonderful question. Do students understand Choice Ready and do teachers understand Choice Ready? Not enough, not enough. So it's been 7 years since we created this. And granted, the first couple years we were kind of getting it into play. But we've had 3 good, strong years of Choice Ready results. But I'll bet there are even a few high school principals out there who would not be able to articulate, okay, what is Choice Ready and how are we doing? And that's why it's so important for you to have your high school principal come up to the podium and talk to you about Choice Ready, because your superintendent should be knowledgeable and your high school principal should be knowledgeable, the counselor should be knowledgeable. We're still trying to work on that, and we are not where we should be. We go present at the superintendent conference each year. We go present at the counselors' annual conference. We send out many, many, many memos to the schools about the Choice Ready report and then the results. We even have Choice Ready workshops, and we're going to have them again this fall. So in September, a team of us will be going to Fargo, Minot, and Bismarck. So we have regional representation. And we'll be talking to them about our Choice Ready results, any changes that have occurred throughout the year. We have Superintendent Basler, this is such a priority to her, that we have earmarked some of our state ESSER funds, about $800,000, to once again give out Choice Ready grants. So your high school can apply for a Choice Ready grant to help you implement these elements within this metric. So, we're trying everything we can to get the word out, presenting, communication, news releases, but again, we have a lot of turnover in our schools. We know that we're facing a teacher shortage. We have a lot of administrator turnover, so it's difficult to always be catching people up when we have new people coming in, but we definitely need to do a better job, especially with students, with parents, and so, we're not where we want to be, but we're continuously trying to get the word out. Any other questions?
What will be the grant period for the Choice Ready?
Will we do what?
The grant period for the Choice Ready?
So we're going to be going out in the month of September, and then we'll make the application available there. So I think they're due maybe like October 1, so they'll have from October 1 of 2022 through August 31st of 2023. So, basically it's for the whole school year, but we'll even go into the summer. So if there's some summer things next summer that they need to do, and again, you could apply for maybe someone to tutor students with the cream. Maybe you have some students on an IEP. And we have many students on an IEP who can be Choice Ready. That is not an automatic, they're not going to be Choice Ready. And so maybe we give them a tutor to help them through that course, or even the ACT. If you have some kids that are so close, they just need some tutoring, and then retake the ACT and get that required score. So you can use this Choice Ready grant to pay for some ACT tutoring, some cream tutoring. Or in the essential skills section, that's another one that we're really trying to build up, because if you're not essential skills ready, you can't ever be choice ready. And so within the essential skills section, there is a career readiness, when that's one of the boxes. And so maybe you want to provide an opportunity for all of your students to go to a career fair. Remember how I told you if you do things like just make it a requirement for all the kids, boom, that's one check that you can check for everybody. So if you build it into one of the days that you're going to take all the high school kids and take them to a career fair, or maybe they do it their junior year, number one, beneficial information for the student. Number two, all of those kids can check that box. Number three, again, it's less burden for the counselor who's ever filling out that report. So they'll get more information and the form to fill out at these choice ready workshops in September.
What's the essential score for an ACT? I haven't been in education for a while, so I'm not.
So her question was, what's the scores here needed for the ACT? So for ACT English, they need an 18, reading 22, ACT Math 21, ACT Science 23. So, and again, you'll get a copy of this PowerPoint, and this framework is also on the website. But those are the scores they need to get, or they don't have this, they can do 2 of these. And if they do 2 of these, then they're post-secondary ready. Any other questions?
How many students graduated in Choice Ready?
Right now, our choice ready rate last year was right around 45%. The year before that, I think it was 38%. So we're going in the right direction. We had a really good year and 100%. So I'm hoping it's going to be up in the 60s this year. And again, we just want to keep growing and growing. And ideally, our choice ready rate would match our graduation rate, be up in the mid to upper 90s.
Who sets the standards then for the state scholarship?
Her question was, who sets the standards for the state scholarship? That's our North Dakota legislature. So again, we've had a state scholarship for many, many years, and then just this past year, there was this new bill that aligned the state scholarship to the Choice Ready with a few differences. It is a little bit more stringent to get the scholarship than it is Choice Ready, but the North Dakota state legislature sets those standards.
With the ASVAB score 31 for Choice Ready, and then it jumps to 85.
Yeah,
State
good.
scholarship, right? I've heard that's unattainable. Sometimes are they looking at kind of realigning that a little bit better?
Yes, great comment. I'm impressed that you know that. So in the state scholarship that they created, so on Choice Ready, they have to get an ASVAB score of 31. For reasons unknown to me, they set the ASVAB score at 81, 82, 86, in the 80s, 85 on the new state scholarship. And that's only a very, very small number of students who get that high of a score. So the good news is how we talked about on that slide, that they can meet either or for the next couple of years, and we have a session coming up before the new requirements kick in. So the answer to your question is yes, there is a concerted effort among many to get that score lower. I don't think it's going to go as low as 31 on the Choice Ready framework, but we're hoping to meet somewhere in the middle. So what we've been asking our schools to do, send us your data. How many students got an 85? How many students got a 31? What did most of your students, what score were they able to get? So hopefully there'll be lots of discussion during this next legislative session, and hopefully we can meet in the middle so it's a more attainable score.
One quick comment on that state scholarship too. It's unfortunate that they don't allow that scholarship dollar to go to an out-of-state school. Students might have different interests, or if you're really trying to promote this to the students, it shouldn't matter where they go.
As a parent of a student who's going to Minnesota State next year. I agree with you. That's a little bit hard to take that, she's not going to be able to take that money with her. But I guess, especially in our current world, we have a teacher shortage. We have, we're looking to keep our students in state. So I think the rationale that they would give why you have to go to a North Dakota school in order to get the scholarship is we are trying to retain our great graduates and have them work in state. But yeah, as a parent, that's hard to take. Any other questions? Okay, well, hope you learned a little bit about Choice Ready, and don't forget to call or email me at any time. I think we're doing a break, right? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a 15-minute break.